Yo, what up, Street Dogs? Eric Kim. All right, some turbo thoughts. So this one is conquer it all. So what does that mean? Um, so I was randomly just how do I hold this thing comfortably without messing up the settings? Okay. Um, man, I wish Apple should just make like a vlogging only camera. That'd be pretty cool. But anyways, so I randomly had this idea of I just woke up in the middle of the morning at like 5, right? This morning, and then I was just like laying in bed, and it's like conquer it all, or so much left to conquer. And they had this image of like a downtown LA overpass with the concrete, and then just like so much concrete to conquer. um, and so that's one thought. Another one is like becoming a street photographer. Another idea was how to become an influencer, or I'm becoming an influencer. So, some funny thoughts. If somebody calls themselves an influencer, like I am a influencer, they're not an influencer. So that's a funny thought. And also, when people want to become an influencer, they're probably not really going to become influential, right? Because the notion of a quote unquote influencer is, it's actually funny because it's actually a concept that's been around at least when I was 21 years old. Was I born in 1988, right? So when I was like, yeah, like kind of how many years ago? I'm 34 now. So like 12 years ago. So I guess the decade, the phrase has been around for over a decade. So I mean, the thing is here to last. But what does it mean to become an influencer? It's it's not through being on social media, Facebook, Instagram, even the YouTubies, even a podcast. My thought is kind of has to do something with your own website and blog. So the best, most robust way to stay an influencer for the long term is actually through your own website blog. What's the difference between a website and a blog? All blogs are websites, not all websites are blogs, right? So a website tends to be like a static front-facing page, like biography of somebody. A blog is like a web log on the web, the internet, a log of just your activities and stuff. It's actually funny because in the early days of blog, I actually remember I used Zanga back in high school, middle school, maybe middle school, right? Eric Kim middle school, so funny, right? I actually started blogging, doing my first blog when I was like 15. Wow, I've been blogging for like over 15, 17 years. But anyways, shout out to Maddox, maddox.xmission.com. I still remember when I was in middle school, me and my friends fighting. It's like why you should beat your children. And there's like a photo of a monk doing a headbutt on a kid. And then me and my middle school friends, a bunch of Asian AM kids were all like, that's hilarious. That's totally true, right? But anyways, so I think actually the best way to become influential is actually to blog or be a blogger. And even YouTube, right? I mean, YouTube's useful insofar much as it's the best place to host your videos that is actually searchable or findable, right? Even for myself, like I use videopress.com, which is like the premium WordPress plugin for my WordPress.org website blog. But still, the problem with that is not easily indexable or findable. Like even something like, okay, I've been blogging for so long, right? Sometimes I'm like, I've probably written about this, and I'll just Google my article like Eric Kim, XYZ, like Eric Kim, the movie 300, or Eric Kim, Spartans, Eric Kim, street photography philosophy, and I'll find old articles that I've written in the past. Oh, cool, I've written about this. But then still, the interesting thing is just because you've written about it doesn't mean you shouldn't rewrite it again. So even I was looking at my article I wrote, Eric Kim, was it the street photography philosophy? I wrote it in 2018, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, right? So maybe I could write it again, right? And to rewrite the same thing again the second time, it's like a totally new experience because you become a different person, your life experiences change, etc. So even my thoughts on street photography in the past and now are different, right? And that's a good thing. And then people's like, yeah, but you're contradicting yourself, or you said this in the past. But I'm like, bro, like if you live long enough, you're gonna contradict yourself sooner or later, right? Is my philosophical thought. And actually, I think it's an important thought because a lot of people, I think, are so afraid of contradicting themselves. Or the mission philosophy is everyone's trying to find like some sort of ultimate life trueness or truthiness to some sort of concept that will last forever. Now, the problem about that is even Nietzsche was like, once you try to do a totalizing philosophy, it shows distance and unsincerity. And so I actually think that the best way to apply philosophy and thinking and life and standard rules is like our best friend Heraclitus said, um, you know, everything is flux, everything flows. And it's kind of like a Buddhist Zen Taoist way of thinking about things I like is essentially like you could literally do the same thing every single day, talk about the same subject every single day, photograph the same thing every single day. It's always going to be different. It's always going to be exciting and new. And I mean, even think about it like moment to moment, the chemicals and the molecules of your body are different, right? Your atoms are different. Even if you photograph the same simple thing every single day, the atoms in the air, the photo light streams are different. So everything is always different. Also, pro tip to us millennials, right? Or zillennials or Gen Y or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you should totally have kids. I mean, if you're a photographer and you want to be more happy as a photographer or productive, don't get a cat, don't get a dog, don't get another dog. Have a kid, because like, okay, first of all, the kid, like, assuming it's your biological kid, right? It looks like you, right? Like even looking at Seneca, we always joke, it's like nose up, he looks like me, nose down, he looks like Cindy. So, Seneca every single day he's growing so much and so quickly. And I've been photographing like my friend Anthony Larson says like, dude, that kid's gonna be the most photographed kid of all time. I'm like, yep. And every single day, it's like he always looks so different. It's crazy, right? And far more interesting than photographing a cat or a dog, which will eventually die in about a decade. I like the idea that your kid, it's one of the things that improves over time. Like even a way to think about philosophy is things which improve over time, things which get worse over time. um you know just use that as a metric. So for example, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, etc., it's over time it's going to get more useful or have more value. Not even sure it's going to have more value, but it's certainly going to be more useful in the long term. Like just think to yourself, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, is Bitcoin going to be mm, more adopted or more useful? Probably, yeah. Same thing with kids. Also, the same thing with the hard thing with information, books, blogs, whatever, is to make something that gets better over time is quite a difficult endeavor. Um, the easiest way to do, like you think about great cinema and films, Citizen Kane, etc., is I think the best way to create something that lasts a long time and gets better over time is that you really do put your soul and your blood into it without concern of like money, success, blah, blah, fame, what's popular, what's trending, because um, things which are substantial, deep, philosophical, insightful, and kind of general will last much longer than things which are short term, right? So even as a pro tip, the reason why I disabled all stats, blogs, comments on my website, etc., is I started to find that it kind of started to reprogram me in weird ways. So for example, of course, anytime you do a camera review or some sort of review, you're gonna get more page views, right? Or clicks, right? So then the stats, and this is where I'm kind of anti-Google, Silicon Valley and numbers, whatever, is that then the stats tell you should just keep writing camera reviews. But I'm like, bro, you write a camera review, it's gonna get outdated in 6 months. Not very evergreen, right? Whereas if you talk about something deeper like philosophy, the meaning of things, motivation, inspiration, whatever, think about it like 100 years, 20 years, 300 years from now, what are people still going to be interested in? Um, the type of camera we're going to shoot with 300 years from now, who knows what it's going to look like. My thought is it's still going to be some sort of compact, pocketable thing. Imagine like a Ricoh GR or an iPhone, but way more capable, smaller, thinner. I think physics, I mean, maybe it'll be half the thickness of an iPhone Pro, who knows, whatever it is. It's probably going to still have a physical shutter and stuff like that because I think people still prefer that. And even the iPad notion will last a long time, I think, which is in praise of. So 300 years from now, let's say we're all on Mars, right? And everyone's so bored, right? Everyone's having the Mars ennui, like the Wi-Fi is so slow, just I'm trying to stream this show, it's so slow. People are still going to deal with like motivation, loneliness, depression, blah blahs. And so, meaning of life, for lot like people didn't deal with philosophy for like how many thousands of years, right? So that's definitely gonna last. Art is gonna definitely last. You think about the cave paintings, they did cave paintings back then. Yeah, we'll still probably do some sort of Mars cave paintings in the future. So that's where it's important to think about things which really really matter. Even back in ancient Greek times, money wasn't invented yet. Actually, it's funny to think about it. It's like instead we had gold, we had like tripods of gold, and we had heads of oxen. Even the notion of capital, it comes from kaput head. Um, Capital just meant heads of oxen because back in the day it's like how rich are you, right? It's like how many oxen do you own? It's like I own 100 oxen. How many you own? I own like 1 million oxen, right? Even when you did something called a hectocomb, hecatomb, essentially you sacrificed 100 heads of oxen, 100 oxen for a libation to the gods, which was very expensive because I go to the Costco Business Center and I get this huge slab of beef brisket, um, 4.99 a pound. Was it the Prime? I think it's Prime. Oh yeah, it's Prime because it's like go to Costco get the Prime brisket. It's like apparently it digests within 2 days or quicker, same day. um, it's huge, right? So you imagine just like, and how much can you buy a cow for nowadays? Like $1,000, right? Whatever it is. Anyways, so that's the true wealth. Like I also even think about like, what is money really really good for? And nowadays coffee is cheap enough. Like on Amazon, I ordered Cindy orders this like freshly roasted coffee. It's like the most generic name, but it's actually really good. We get the Ethiopia Yurga Shefi. It's really good. Get this like 5 pound bag for what, $30, $40, super cheap. No more hipster third wave coffee for me. And beyond that, what is money good for? It's good for yeah, buying meat. That's the only practical thing. Even last night, I had Cindy made some beef ribs, so cheap at Costco Business Center. Oh, like $2.99 a pound, $2.50 a pound. I slept great, and then we slept at like 7:30, 8 p.m. Then I woke up naturally. Naturally, no, I haven't used an alarm clock the last like decade, right? Unless I have to wake up for early flights. Um, I woke up at like 5. I feel great and have all these ideas and stuff like that. But anyways, so to really become influential, start your own website blog, and even something I'm starting to realize with websites, blogging, Google, SEO, stuff like that is, Google is, I'm kind of feeling that like Google is doing like underhanded deals behind the table that goes beyond the search algorithm, where it actually like somebody consults Google, say, yo, how do I get to the top of the Googles for category X or my name? And then Google will help them get boosted, and so there's some sort of artificial code insertion and changing things. um I'm getting very sus of like these like Google author profile. Like you Google someone's name, right? And then top right corner in the column, there's like somebody's name, right? The question is, what do you do when there's multiple people with the same name, right? Similarly speaking, Wikipedia is funny, right? You could tell if somebody's Wikipedia page was actually written by themselves or by a friend of somebody or somebody who's been commissioned to write it for them. Uh, the real way to measure success is, why doesn't he or she have have their own Wikipedia page yet, right? Um, so like like I think was it Cleon or one of the ancient statesmen. It's like Might have been Cleon. Was it Cleon? One of those dudes. Anyways, but the thought was like, super famous, and then there wasn't a statue of him in the city. And then the citizens were like, Cleon or whoever his name. What's his name? Cato. Was it Cato? Might have been Cato. Maybe Cato. Anyways, there's also something called the Cato Institute, I think. But citizens. Let's say it's Cato, right? Cleon. Or let's say it's like, why isn't there a statue of you in the city, right? Because he had the option to do it, right? And he said to a citizen or to the dude, right? It's like, I would rather people ask me, why do I not have a statue of me than why is there a statue of you? Which is kind of a nice thought, right? Or like, it's more interesting when somebody who's done a lot of great things hasn't got the Pulitzer or hasn't got the whatever prize. And the funny thing with these prizes is that they're so silly because, Nobel Peace Prize. Like, bro, Nobel Peace Prize, the dude invented dynamite, which has killed how many people? Which has been used as a war device, right? So all these prizes, right? Peace Prize, whatever, they're just based on dudes' names, right? And so it's like, wait, you're going to augment your own self-esteem based on the name of somebody else? So certainly your name is the most important. So the first thought is augment your own name. Your first and last name is your most important asset. Whatever you're named with. Pro tip to us Asian people or us, second gen or foreigners, whatever. Unfortunately, America English is the world's dominant language by far. Think about it this way. Chinese people, rich mainland Chinese people, Chinese officials, etc., they all speak English, but Americans don't speak Chinese, aka Mandarin, or like I grew up Cantonese, right? I remember as a kid growing up in SF, San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, and like all my friends spoke Cantonese, right? And I'm just like, I always thought the Mandarin was the weird one. It's like, you speak Mandarin? Ngoy, right? Change your name into an English name, or not change your name, like make a real English name, right? So for example, Cindy's name is Kiman, right? Kim, Gold, An, intelligence, wisdom, and then she changed her name to Cindy in was it the elementary school, I think. And so if you just have like a super Asian sounding name, it's good to just make like a new name that's an Asian name, right? Like I think even Jon Stewart, his real name is like something else, like something more like quote unquote Jewish sounding, apparently, according to what Donald Trump said, I guess. And even a lot of the famous Hollywood peoples, right? I mean, this is because, America's super racist, right? Where a lot of the early Hollywood days, people who were Jewish, and I only learned this recently because like I'm Asian, I don't really know about this, but like apparently there are certain like quote unquote Jewish sounding last names. Anything that ends with a vich or witch or has the word gold in it, like Goldsmith, or it's funny because if your last name is Goldsmith, your relatives or your heritage, like somebody back in the day, they actually were a goldsmith. So it's like, what is your last name? Ah, he's a goldsmith. He does goldsmith. Ah, you are, John Goldsmith, or you are George Goldsmith. And or like Horowitz. I had no idea that was like a quote Jewish last name, like Ben Horowitz, like the very fun, lively Silicon venture capitalist. Shout out to Ben. He's the man, right? Whatever it is. Anyways, so try to make an American sounding or easy to remember first name, and then use your last name. And then the best way for people to your best business card is when people say, "Oh, you got a business card?" It's like, "Nah, I don't got a business card. Just Google me, Eric Kim," right? Or go on the YouTube, you search Eric Kim. That's by far the greatest flex. And then also a good way to have people remember your name is like say it is like da, da, da. So for example, Eric, like Eric Cartman from South Park. Cartman's the first name is actually Eric. This is my favorite character, right? Um, or like Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid, or Eric like Eric Clapton, right? And then Kim, I say like, Kim like Kim Kardashian, or I say Kim like kimchi because I'm Korean, right? So these are good ways for people to remember your name. And also, the way that Google YouTubies does things is through one of their SEO updates was freshness. So Google technically prioritizes that which was most recently published, and I think that's a good thing because it gives you the motivation to keep making stuff, creating, and keep flowing. So focus on recency. So, like for example, with our best friend Kanye West, right? People not interested on what he said like a decade ago, or 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, or a year ago, or 6 months ago, or even a week ago. They're interested in what he's saying now. And this is where I think Twitter is such an interesting thing because it does focus on the now, right? So just know that like your opinion or your thoughts or your motivations could change day to day, and just kind of share what's on your mind today. And also with your website, you make a website bluehost.com and sell wordpress.org. Ideally, the website should be super easy for you to remember and type. First name, last name.com, or first name, last name photo.com, or first name, last name photography.com. Use a .com because of those other hipster last suffixes are kind of bizarre to the average human, even myself. Don't use the .xyz. Nobody uses that. Me, ericKimPhotography.com, ericKimPhotography.com/blog, or Cindy purchased erickim.com for me, which is, I think she paid like $1,000 for it, $2,000, $3,000. I'm not sure, but it's totally worth it. Like so much more worth it than buying a house. Biggest scam in American history. It's like you're gonna spend $1 million, 1.5 million, $2 million on this thing, and then you're gonna spend the rest of your life at Home Depot. Scam, right? Even buying a new car seems like a scam to me. Just buy a used car. Even if I was gonna buy a Tesla, just buy an old used Model S or 3, whatever. Or just buy an old Prius or an old Subaru Outback 5-speed wagon. That's that's the that's the one. Um, so yeah, and so to become influential, think about your own platform, your own blog, and think about yourself.